Anthony Palkovich, fisherman all my life, 35 years. Quit school at a young age, 16, married, on these boats, and been running boats myself for 35 years. Don't really like the way BP has, handled the claims situation so far. Around the world, you're hearing good news, which we really had good news with BP in the beginning. Looked like they had very, very good intentions. They took some of our documents, tax papers and stuff like that, and they based on like what you made. So what they did, they turned around and they gave like owners of the boats, the captains, like $5,000 for the month, and the next month rolled around, the same thing. Deckhands got like $2,500 a month, and which was a good thing because it helped keep us going, paying our bills around the house to keep going. But all of a sudden they cut it off, and it's like every time you turn around they want more documentation. We went from federal tax papers to trip tickets. Whenever the vessels come in, we offload, you have trip tickets, that's records that goes to the state, the government. They wanted that, so we sent them that. I have a grandson that worked for me year before last and last year in the beginning, and the oil spill happened, and I had to let him go because we was barely making any money as it was to survive ourselves, so I had to let him go. I told him, son, best thing for you to do is go try to find a job. And I said, if things pick up later, Grandpa will always take you back. And they made a settlement with him. He decided to take like $35,000. And he said that was good enough for him, because he's young and he could always get another job. Well, here recently, BP has sent him a check for $35,000. It's sitting in the bank for over a month now, and he can't even cash the check. The bank won't cash the check till BP gives them a confirmation number. So, I mean, why make a settlement with them? They agreed on a settlement. They settled. They sent him the money, and he can't use it to pay his bills. So it's like getting a rubber check. My own dealings with them, it started out, they wanted our tax papers, which to me, that's a fair thing. I mean, we don't lie to the government. We can't really lie to them because everything's on records. Every time these boats come in and we offload, it's all documented. How many pounds of shrimp we caught if we're shrimping at the time, the price of the shrimp. I mean, they know exactly what we made. They don't know all our expenses, but I mean, they know exactly what that boat brought in gross.
Yeah. Gross.
So, I mean, they could take it from there and say, well, okay, we're gonna give y'all so much money for 3 years because like us, a lot of my concerns are, what about the future? Am I still gonna be able to be a fisherman? It's kind of hard to just up and quit something that you devoted your whole life into, all of these years, and then all of a sudden you can't be what you are. I mean, it's hard enough for us as it is. I don't know how it is all over around the United States. I'm more sure some of the other fishermen, they having problems too. We're having a lot of problems with imports. Our prices, they dropped. And I mean, a lot of times you hear people about, you got these aliens, they come from other countries, they come here, they work. Y'all guys are lazy, you don't want to work. It's not that the people don't want to work. People can't afford to work. It costs us money to live here in this country. Them people can come here and make a few $100s, and they go back home and they live well. It costs us money in this country to live. So you got to make good money to live.
Like I noticed they're offering $25,000 take it or leave it basis to a lot of the smaller shrimp boats and oyster boats and so forth. Look at a boat like this. How much does it cost to keep this boat running, say, for a month of hard trial?
$25,000 ain't nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody with common sense knows it's nothing. Yeah. Fuel probably right now is diesel fuel for these boats is probably getting close to $4 a gallon.
Yeah, and how much are you going to spend when you're really trawling and everything per month? Just give me an estimate.
It's really hard to say because I mean it all depends on the shrimping itself. If shrimping's good, well, we could catch plenty of shrimp. We basically work on volume. We have to catch volume to make money. At the cheap prices. So I mean it kind of it don't pan out a lot of times. The cheap shrimp, you're not catching enough. You can't keep trying to work, and the fuel's overcoming everything that you're making, basically, you know.
So you're working for free, basically.
Right, working for free. You got wear and tear on all of your equipment on it. It costs a lot of money to keep these boats up, you know, and it's...
Yeah, like to pull this boat out of the water and work on the hull and everything. How much does that cost? You know, I mean.
Well, this is this is my brother's boat, and some bad things had happened. We had picked the boat up during the winter, and I think his bill right now is like $5 grand, and we still got a long way to go with it. But I mean, I had got sick for almost a month. I had pneumonia. I finally got over it, and as soon as I got over it, he got sick. He wound up with pneumonia 3 times this winter, so we didn't get to do no work on the boat. And the boat wound up sitting here, but I mean, we still have to pay the bill, you know? Yeah. And the way I understand, they had some lawyers come down from Washington, D.C. We went to a meeting with them at our auditorium building in Buras, Louisiana, and they explained to us that when the Exxon Valdez had spilled oil in Prince William Sound, OSHA came out and made a law, a federal law, that anyone that was affected by the oil spill, to protect the people, because at the time they had no laws in place, that they made the law that they have to pay us like so much a month, every month, until they make a final settlement with you. It's kind of hard for the fishermen to just up and make a final settlement when we don't know what's going to happen in our future, you know.
Sure, I mean,
we worried about the oil, but I mean, we had oil spills down here before. Many years has happened. My father dealt with that after World War II. They sunk all these ships off the river, and they caught big tar balls in the trawls with the shrimp, and they didn't pay no mind to it. They pushed the tar balls back overboard and kept picking shrimp. Never ever heard of anybody getting sick and dying from it. But my biggest concern was the disbursements that they sprayed on that oil. The way I understand them, chemicals ain't nothing nice. So...
Well, how do you feel about the fact that those chemicals, Corexit, are banned in England, the home base of British Petroleum, as well as Norway and Denmark?
Correct.
But they're here putting billions of gallons, millions of barrels on top of the oil just to hide the oil.
Correct.
And they really, I don't think anybody knows the effect of that toxic
I don't think they do. Not in the long run. They're just like our own government. They okayed DDT. They had DDT for many years. They used it on the farms. I mean, I don't blame the farmers. You have to have something to keep the bugs from eating the crops. But they okayed it. Then they turned around and had to ban it. And where we live down here at the mouth of the Delta here, at the end of the Mississippi River, all of that runoff from them farms, it all comes down this river. And when I was a young boy, I started out fishing with my father down there. You could smell a DDT when we would catch fish and stuff, haul the net and stir in the bottom. You could smell it. Now, how many years does that take before it goes away? It's the same thing with the corrections. You know, we've been eating the seafood. We've been eating the oysters, the fish, the shrimp. I don't see any problem with it. The shrimp taste the same. I think most animals, when it comes down to a bad toxic chemical, I think they would die off before a human being would, because I think they're more vulnerable to stuff like that, you know?
Let me ask you this question, young man. The fisherman over in, oyster fisherman over in Empire Marina told me that if he dropped a mistaken accident, he spilled 2-3 gallons of diesel into the harbor there, and the Fish and Game caught him, he would be automatically fined immediately $15,000 for a gallon or 2 of diesel. Do you think it's fair the way they're treating BP? They put BP in charge of everything.
I think that was very wrong.
60,000 barrels a day.
Right, correct. That's correct. You know, where have you ever heard anywhere in this world where somebody does make an accident like that and they leave it up to them to clean it up? You know, our government should have stepped in. Our government should have cleaned it up and made BP foot the bill for it. That way, the people of this country would have known it was cleaned up to our specifications. It would have been done right, and make them pay the bill. I mean, you get in a vehicle and you ride down the road, you get in an accident, that's why you have insurance. You know what I'm saying? You cause the accident, you don't go fix them people's vehicle. Right. They take it into a shop, to a professional, they fix it, and your insurance foots the bill.
Right.
You know? And a lot of things, it was handled wrong from the get-go. A lot of it.
But it seemed like everybody, the whole media, all they talked about was oiled birds and pictures. But what about the oiled families? How do you feel about that, the way the priorities were put?
Well, the priorities usually is mixed up. I mean, the poor I feel sorry for the animals, you know. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the birds, they feed themselves off of the water. They bound to dive into it, and a lot of the animals suffered for it, you know. But I mean, there's no possible way of stopping the animals from getting into it.
Right, but a human being that can't pay his mortgage, can't pay his truck note, can't put diesel in his boat.
Correct.
We're talking about major trauma, financial, and it gets into emotional. And
a lot of people stressed real bad. I mean, wind up going to doctors, taking nerve pills, and everything you could think of, you know. I know a couple friends of mine like that, you know. I
heard over in Lafourche Parish, there's fishermen and crabbers that are having trouble sleeping. They never had trouble in their life. The wife's on Prozac because she's feeling the stress from the lack of money. Are you seeing that syndrome among your community?
Yeah, you see it. Sure, you see it. I mean, what do you expect, though? You know, this man's, you know, to me, I would say a proud man. He worked all his life, fed his family, took care of his family. Then all of a sudden, he can't provide for his family. I imagine his wife has got to worry. Her husband's not making any money. They have children at home. It doesn't bother me as much because I'm an older gentleman. You know, my daughters is grown and they have children of their own, and it's basically just me now, you know, so I could survive, you know what I'm saying? But when you have children there that you're trying to raise, I mean, it's not that easy, and you can't just say, well, all of y'all fishermen just quit fishing. Y'all all become doctors. I mean, we can't all become doctors. That's not our lifestyle. That's not what we was born to do, you know? This is what we was born to do. We, like anyone else, our forefathers, that's what they did. My grandfather did it. My great-grandfather did it. My dad did it. So we wound up doing it as a living. It was a decent living. You could make a decent living. You wasn't hurting anyone else, making money just living off of the land, you know.
Have you personally put in a claim for BP for the damages that you've suffered as a
yes,
boat captain?
Yes, sir.
And what has been your experience?
You could talk to them almost 24 hours a day if you want to talk to them. But it's always a runaround, you know. It's like I'm saying in the beginning, when they start out, I had no problem with BP, none whatsoever, because it looks like, you know, in the beginning they stepped right up to the plate, and they started giving us a few dollars. We could survive. We could still keep us going. I said, well, it's good, you know. At least they manning up to it, and they're gonna take care of the people until the people are able to go back to work, you know. And now it's like they're crawfishing. They're backing up worse than a crawfish, you know? It's one thing after the other. They wanted tax papers, like I said in the beginning. Then it went from tax papers. They want trip tickets. And, I mean, every time you turn around, we don't have enough information. I mean, my goodness, come on. You could go to the state. You could see we've been buying license. Like me, like I'm saying, I run the boats for 35 years myself. I have a license every year with them people. All they have to do is check into it. Well, this man's been buying these licenses, not one license, but I got a wallet full of licenses I could show you. And I mean, why would I spend all this money buying license every year for 35 years and I don't do it for a living? Something's wrong.
So you put in a claim. Did they lose your claim, or is it, I heard a lot of people had to do it 2 or 3 times.
They didn't lose the claim.
That's
like all those humbuggers on the TV a while back here, and now they sent a letter to the house that talking about all of my information, my social security number, this, that, every important thing that I needed I had to send to them was in the computer. Now someone stole one of the laptops. I'm not worried they stole a laptop. That to me, that's not no private information. That's all over the internet everywhere nowadays. I see my mother's like that. She's up in age. She shreds every piece of news that she gets. I said, Mom, then people get all of that information. Well, how are they going to get it? I said, it's nothing for a thief to get what they're after, you know?
Let me ask you this. BP is estimated to be spending more on public relations and advertising and productions of videos, professional Hollywood crew type production of their ads. They're estimated to be spending more money, more than $20 billion, than the fund that they've set aside to make the fishermen and related industries whole financially. How do you feel when you see one of these ads like Mike Blanchard out of Chauvin, Louisiana, saying that shrimp are pretty, we're back at it, BP paid for everything, I'm happy as a clam, life is hunky-dory. How do you feel? Is that the majority of the people feeling that way that you know?
It's not the majority of the people, believe me. You can just walk around and just start talking to some of the fishermen, the true fishermen that's done this all their lives, and you're gonna see. It's gonna be one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's a handful probably of people that lucked out in the beginning and everything worked just right in their favor. And there's gonna be people, for instance, just like Hurricane Katrina down here. I mean, I don't know if you came down here and seen the humbug or not, because there was a lot of nice people come from all over the United States, came down and helped us.
Yeah.
We didn't have nothing left down here. I mean, it cleaned, my mother and them's brick home, completely gone. My uncle's two-story home, completely gone. I mean, everybody that we knew, born and raised with down there, everything was just wiped out. Left a vehicle, it was wiped out too. And it's like, you're trying to start over, and then all of a sudden this year that the oil spill took place was really and truly our year to finally come back since Katrina.
I understand, yeah.
And then this happened, and it's all backwards, and it's like, to me, it's like they're not helping, because every time you call them, it's like, oh, everything looks good, everything looks good. It's not looking good on my end. If you don't have this in your hand, you can't pay your bills.
Have you worked and been able to fish in the past year?
Yes, we worked, since the oil spill. Matter of fact, this boat right here, me and my brother was working together down there, and the night that the rig exploded, we was working. We was working right in that area. They was way offshore from where we were, and we was averaging like $3,500 a night, and it blew up, and then they stopped us. We couldn't go back down there and work. That all started coming in down there, and they shut the areas down. So we got shut down for a little while, and then finally they started opening a little place here and a little place there, and we worked those areas. We made a few dollars, don't get me wrong, but nothing like we normally make,
Because as far as shrimping goes, isn't it more of a seasonal thing?
It's a seasonal thing.
You can't earn all year long, so you got to work 3-4 months like a dog to get your money to make it for the rest of the year, right?
Correct.
So I think this spill happened right at the beginning of shrimping when it was just starting to get good.
Correct.
So basically, I take it your main income for 2010 kind of evaporated.
Right. Like our May season, which is really our Brazilian season, which everybody usually calls it a May season, because that's when we normally work brown shrimp, and that season normally opens in May, and the spill happened right before it. So what happened? They opened areas, and some areas they kept closed. When August rolled around, we have a pompano season. My brother has a special permit to work Britain Chandelier Sound. Well, they did open a good bit of the sound. Where the fish was at, it was closed. So it messed our season up. We caught a few fish right on the end. I think we had a $10,000 day one day, and then we had a $7,000 day, and the season was over.
Well, that sounds really great, but your expenses, how much does it cost if you have to put a new clutch in your motor of your boat, or put a new clutch, or buy a new propeller?
Oh, just one of the nets that we use to catch these fish with is like, let's see, I just bought some webbing in February. I ordered it. We got it in the end of February. It's about $8,000 for one net to work with.
One net to work.
Right. And one bad mistake in sharks and stuff, they destroy it, because the webbing we use is real fine. It's real light, and then big sharks just eat it up like chewing candy.
I understand. Now, what if a propeller goes out on you and you got to pull the boat and put the new propeller on? What kind of job, the cost is that?
It varies. $3,000, $4,000 to pull up. If
cheap.
It's not nothing really major. Major.
If it's major, what can you get into? Like an engine head's got to be pulled or something. What are we looking at?
A lot. You're looking at a lot of money.
Can you give me an estimate on a boat such as this? Just
boat
so
like
people
this,
have an idea of the dollar value of
a lot of them engines, $15,000, $20-something thousand for an engine. Unless you go buy, like a second-hand engine. Sometimes you luck out, get a good second-hand engine, lasts you a good many years.
I understand.
Like that's why I say it varies. It just all depends on what you do. Sometimes like a wheel, if you got to change wheels, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. sometimes you could get them, you get lucky and somebody has a wheel and they went to a big engine, they want to just get rid of the wheel, they might sell it to you for maybe $500, $600, $1,000.
But you're doing the work yourself, probably.
Correct.
It's not
Correct.
like if you go to a professional shop and everything, it's probably unaffordable.
Correct.
So you're doing everything.
Yep.
Can you tell me, do you think BP is more concerned with its brand and protecting its brand and its image than it is in making you fishermen and the fishing community financially whole?
I think they worried a lot. They probably worried a lot about the image, you know, because today is probably not like it was many years ago. Today, people kind of getting tired of all the humbug that's going on, you know. Years and years ago, probably just swept it under the rug and didn't pay no mind, just keep on going. And I mean, you hear people, they complain about the president, this, that, all kind of stuff, you know, a lot of the problems that's going on. Well, a lot of the problems, he inherited a lot of the problems to start with before this even happened. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
and I mean, he's kind of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, because the country needs oil. This country has to have oil. So
Right.
you can't stop him from drilling. I mean, what are you going to do?
Right,
If
the
you-
whole
if you have
economy would
to-
shut down.
Correct. And if you have to buy all of the oil from overseas, they're going to control you,
Right.
you know,
Right.
which I
Then-
think this country's going to that anyhow, because in history, if you look back in history, most everybody that ever ruled, any countries that ruled, they a couple hundred years or so, and then it fizzles out. Somebody else is going to take over. And
Yeah.
to me, it's what it looks like is going on here. It's like the country just sold itself out. When you're going to let another country come here, drill on our coast, do the damages that they done, and then they're going to just walk out. I mean, that's what we're all afraid of, them just walking away from it and leaving us stuck here holding the bag.
Well, that's what a lot of people are fearing and experiencing.
Yes?
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Has BP treated you honorably?
In my eyes, they haven't. I mean, you know, it's just like when you go in with the claims office and stuff. Every time you go there, you're always seeing somebody different. I mean, it's like us, like I told you earlier today, you know, we might have like 3 or 4 different deckhands that work for us at different times during the year. Because one deckhand that shrimps with us, he don't like the pompano fish. So when we pompano fish, he goes work somewhere else. Then he comes back later. So, I mean, we're giving him a 1099. We're giving other deckhand 1099. And then when it comes down, they want all kind of information. Why don't you take one-on-one, make a date one day. I'll get all the deckhands together and the captain, and we'll all come in there together, and we could explain everything to one person. That way it's understandable.
Understandable, yes.
You know, like trip tickets. They look at my tax papers. Sometimes me and my brother work together. I'll leave the other boats tied up. And, like, they looking for trip tickets to try to figure out, like, an income. Well, then they look at my taxes. Well, his taxes is he's showing way more money on the taxes than he's showing on trip tickets. Well, yes, because some of my income comes off of here. I don't get his trip tickets. He's the captain and the owner. He gets the trip tickets.
I
See? So at the end of the year, whatever money I make on this boat, me and my brother normally don't do a 1099 together. He goes through the con sales. He tells me exactly what I made on his boat. I write it down. When I do my taxes, I add that to my taxes as an income, and I do him the same thing. So it's not gonna job together, the trip tickets and the
I
income.
understand. It seems like they're looking for any excuse to actually hold off or even not pay.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. It's just, they always want more information, more information. I mean, I'm a fisherman. You see it on my taxes what I am. Give you trip tickets. They wanted me to fill out another big pamphlet deal full of page after page. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not filling all that out. So what I did, I went and I got a lawyer. It's not that I wanted to get a lawyer. I didn't want to sue BP. I'd rather sit down at the table and boy, 100% of these fishermen ready to just sit at the table and negotiate with them. But how do you negotiate with somebody when we don't know what's going to happen in the future? What happens in the future if we can't fish?
And also, it doesn't sound like they're in a negotiating mood when they're offering you $25,000, take it or leave it.
That's no money.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
no money.
And there's not much negotiation for a take it or leave it. So.
Correct. They offered my grandson $35,000, and he took it right off the bat. He said, "That's good enough. I'll take that."
Yeah, but he was just a deckhand. He's
Just a
not a
deckhand,
captain
right.
with a ship and the
Correct.
boat and all the expenses that relate to that.
Correct.
Let me
And-
ask you this: is there? So you were denied what you claimed that you had lost? Is that right from BP?
Basically, They never give me anything. The only money they gave me was, like I said, in the beginning.
A couple of 5,000 checks.
I got 2 months in a row. They gave me $5,000 each check, and then they gave me a $1,750 check and another $1,750 check, and then that was it. Never,
that ain't much.
nothing no
that
more.
Sounds like about $15,000, slightly less.
Right. Since they started dealing with us since the spill.
Do you want to add anything?
No, not really. I mean, it's like that all over the world. I mean, you can't just believe everything you hear. You know, it's just like you spend your money and your time. You come here to talk to the people to find out the truth. It's just like Katrina. People talk, you know, this, that, they hear about Katrina, this, that. Took pictures, showed people the pictures and all. It's not like seeing it with your own eyes. It's just like you coming here and you talking to the people, you experiencing what they're going through. Mm-hmm. You know the truth, just like you're doing now. We're trying to let the people really know what is really happening. I really don't know what to tell them. I mean, you know, our country, they let these other people come here and drill, and you know, basically our waters, you might as well say, this country's waters, and they cause damage. And I mean, the president got on TV, they're going to pay, they're going to have to pay for what went on and stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of people here that's hurting, you know, really, really hurting. The oyster fishermen's really going to hurt, because shrimp and fish ain't so bad. They have tails, they can swim around, they can move. Oysters are stuck, right, the oysters are stuck right there, and if that all, and the disbursement gets on top of them, there's nothing the oyster can do, you know.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. The oyster bed's in real bad shape, both because of the oil and the fresh water.
A lot of us, I mean, they tried to do good. They opened these spillways, they left the river come through, they left the fresh water come through, and that killed a lot of the oysters too, but they was trying one evil versus the other evil, so the oil was more evil, so they tried to use the fresh water to block and divert and keep the oil out, you know.
I can understand that.
It's understandable, you know.
Yeah. One last word about America. Would you like to ask them to maybe support your position instead of believing everything that BP's putting out?
I would love for them to support. Love for them to support us. I mean, because probably 90% of what they're hearing is not the truth. It is not the truth. You know, if they had a way that they could come here and really see what's going on, come to the claims office with us and see what they tell you, and then you sit around and talk to them. My grandson's been going through that almost every day. He calls them almost every day. He said, I'm just going to aggravate him, I'm going to aggravate him, I'm going to aggravate him. He's got a $35,000 check sitting in the bank and he can't do nothing with it. To me, it's like having a rubber check. How can he pay his bills? The money's sitting there, and to me, that's more torture. It's sitting there and can't do nothing with it.
It seems like everything BP does is designed to stress people out, discourage them, make them give up.
A lot of stress. That's like me, you know, 35 years of doing this. I have my whole life devoted into this. What do you do with all of these vessels if we can't shrimp? What do I do with all my equipment, you know? Thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment that you can't do nothing with it. Nothing.
Okay, well, I'm hoping Americans start hearing this truth instead of the Hollywood truth that BP's putting out.
Correct.
Any last word?
No, that's it.
Thank you very much.
All right.